Hello, Bob McCoskrie. Good to have you with us. You're the founder of Family First, which advocates for families on a broad range of issues in New Zealand, promoting strong families, marriage, and the value of life. You spent several years teaching and working with young people in South Auckland, and you have extensive media experience. We heard that New Zealand just banned conversion therapy. What does that battle look like right now? Can you tell us a little bit about this?
So it was a fairly short battle. It sort of started at the beginning of 2021 and the law was passed by February 2022. So it's a reasonably new passing of the law. It generated a lot of debate. In fact, I think previously the number of submissions made to Parliament on the law averaged a big group of submissions was around 30 to 40,000 submissions. This garnered over 100,000 submissions. So there was a huge public debate on this, and that's because the law had the effect of criminalising parents who wanted to protect their children from the gender affirmative model of surgical and puberty blockers, chemicalising children and castrating children's bodies. It also criminalised counselling, it criminalised pastoral care. So anybody who was dealing with unwanted sexuality or gender issues, anybody who attempted to help those people are criminalised by this law. And I think the worst part of the law was that consent was not a defence. In other words, if a person wanted that help, that wasn't taken into account. You still criminalised the helper. So the law was, I would say, rammed through despite huge concern, even from some medical professionals. And of course the jury is still out on how we lovingly and respectfully treat young people who are struggling with their gender identity issues and sexuality issues. Huge debate around puberty blockers, for example. So the law has just come into effect in New Zealand, and it's a vague law, and it has a chilling effect because nobody is actually quite sure what they can do and what they can't do. But I think that's the goal of the activists. They want that chilling effect because they just want people to back off. Here's the interesting thing, Matthew, is that conversion therapy has not actually been banned in New Zealand. You can still do conversion therapy, but only if you go in the direction of the activists. So if you're pushing conversion therapy to transgender or to homosexuality or to the LGBT lifestyle, that is still legal and in fact encouraged, but the other direction is not. That's criminalised, and that's the interesting aspect here.
Wow, spot on. Have you experienced secular media to be open to the message you bring, and how would you say you've been able to deliver the message of family first to a broader audience, Bob?
Very difficult. In fact, we did, after the law was passed, we actually researched every piece of media coverage on the debate. So we analysed between 100 and 200 articles in the New Zealand mainstream media, and we found that there was a massive bias towards pushing the conversion therapy ban. And there were times when our voice wasn't even heard. In fact, we were one of the main groups opposing and leading the charge against the law, and they never came to us. They never came to us for comment. So it wasn't only the politicians who were pushing it through, it was also the media who were pushing it through with the support of the LGBT groups. So it wasn't a fair debate. The good news was that we did show up to the select committee process, which was shown by the number of submissions, more than 100,000. But no, the media don't give a fair go. Unfortunately in New Zealand, but I think it's a worldwide trend, the media are no longer reporting the debate. They are leading the debate. They're pushing the narrative. And it's very sad. And I think that's why a lot of people are moving away from mainstream, why the mainstream media are losing respect. And a lot of people are going to social media and going to groups who are a bit more honest in presenting both sides of the debate. And we're not saying that just our side should be told. We're just saying let's hear both sides and allow people to come to their own conclusion, draw their own conclusion. But that's not happening.
Right, exactly. Wow. And it's like that in some other nations as well, which is interesting. So, Family First speaks about a range of issues relating to family, but how important is it for Family First to discuss sexuality and gender, would you say?
Well, I think that, and we have sort of seen this trend probably 10 years ago, we said that the ultimate goal is to confuse gender. Because when you confuse gender, when you confuse male, female, then what you do is you attack marriage, because that is based on male, female. You confuse parenting, because that's based on father, mother. And you confuse children, because they no longer connect biology with who they are. And so there is this disconnect. So gender has always been the ultimate goal. And unfortunately, in New Zealand, we're finding that there's a huge mental health crisis amongst our young people. To me, I'm not surprised, because they are confused. They don't know who they are. They are being told that they can just choose their gender. If they're born biologically a boy, they can choose to be a girl. And the parents are being told that if your son, that it's a crime to encourage your biological boy to be a man, to be a son, and it's a crime to encourage your biological girl to be a daughter. And so it's confusing for everybody. So I think the gender issue is the ultimate goal. If you confuse gender, then you bring the family into disrepute, and you confuse children, and you lead them into stress. And it's heartbreaking to watch, because we're not having a real debate about how best to help children.
Right.
And yeah, it's disturbing, but it's a worldwide trend. It's not just New Zealand.
Right. So just briefly as well, relating to what you just spoke about, do most people in New Zealand identify with some kind of faith or belief system, would you say? What is that landscape looking like?
Well, New Zealand over the past 10 to 20 years has become increasingly secularised. Okay. It was founded on Judeo-Christian values, but there's been a strong push to secularise the nation. Okay. And so what we now have are some new religions. They're religions of human rights and environmentalism. Right. And they are compulsory, and they're being rammed down on people. And if you oppose these religions, and if you identify with the Judeo-Christian value religion, you're a bigot, you're a phobe of some sort. Yeah. And but the new compulsory religion, which is being pushed in our schools, the religion of sexuality and gender identity, and of critical theory and environmentalism, those are cool, and everyone needs to buy into those. Those are almost compulsory now. Right. And the Judeo-Christian values, anything that sniffs of biblical ethics, biblical truth, biblical sexual ethics, anything like that needs to be cancelled, needs to be shut down, needs to be, completely chucked out, and shouldn't be allowed in schools. And so, for example, even little programs like Bible in schools, teaching just the historical stories and lessons out of the Bible, there's been strong attempts to remove that out of the classroom. But the religion of gender and sexuality ideology is rife and rampant in our schools. And once again, we wonder why our kids are increasingly confused and stressed.
Yes.
Connect the dots.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so glad you called it a religion, because it is. And so what message would you bring to trainees at IFTCC Learning who are looking to improve the quality of support that they provide to those struggling with SSA or gender confusion?
Well, I think the first thing is to realise that you're going against the cultural narrative. But at the same time, we should never stop speaking the truth, because ultimately it's the truth that sets people free. Yes. And so we need to be uncompromising in that. But I think we need to be aware of this cultural narrative, and we need to think about how we can break down some of that narrative that is very strong in the clients that you'll be coming into contact with. I think it's important also that we balance our messaging, our truth with love and grace, and vice versa. If we just speak the truth, it can come across as harsh and judgmental. But then again, if we just are loving and accepting, and you be who you are, and anything goes, then we're not speaking the truth. So we need that balance, don't we? So I would just encourage students that they just ensure that what they're saying is seasoned with salt, that it's seasoned with love, but at the same time, don't compromise on the truth. I think, and one thing I want to talk about at this conference is about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were told to bow down to the culture.
Yes.
They were told, in no uncertain terms, if you don't bow down to the culture, we're going to put you in the fire. I think society is heating up.
Yes.
And our views are becoming more and more unacceptable, and they want to cancel them, and they don't even want to hear them. Mm-hmm. And we need to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and say, well, even if we're not going to compromise on speaking the truth, no matter the consequences. We need to be prepared for that, because I don't think we're going to be looking to get in the fire. I think the fire is going to become looking for us.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you, Bob. Very insightful, very balanced, and yet powerful to hear that. And it's everything our society needs right now. So thank you once again.
Nice to meet you, Matthew.